Hey, what's up? My name is Xuan.
Hey, my name's Angie.
And we're so excited to be launching the Chew on It podcast. Now, just a disclaimer, right, before we start, this podcast is not for the faint-hearted.
Oh?
Yeah, we're gonna be diving into, pretty controversial topics and keeping things as real as we can. So, essentially, it's gotta be a podcast where we delve into the mental health issues faced by many youths and young adults today. Let's go!
Chew on It is production by Brahm Centre, a charity here in Singapore promoting happier and healthier living.
This is actually our first ever episode, right? It's our debut episode. Not gonna lie, there were many changes behind the scenes. Angie, I was speaking to you earlier, initially I wanted to have our next episode where we get to know you a little better, right? In our getting to know Angie Chu episode. I wanted to put that first, but then, just last week, I scrapped the idea, right? I decided to put that one as our second episode instead. Just because I wanted to, give you guys a better teaser, right, of what our podcast is gonna be. So yeah, I wanted to, start off with an interesting topic. Here we are, hustle culture. Isn't that the fun of life? The inevitable C word.
That's wonderful. Change is necessary when we find that something's not going according to plan or something can be actually adjusted to make it even better. Change is about being able to adapt. So way to go, Xuan.
But more often than not, we are only uncomfortable with change when it doesn't suit us, right?
Exactly. Change is there all the time. And who's not going to welcome a change when the boss comes up to you and says,
you got a promotion.
Or pay rise. You're going to say, no, I don't want it, right?
Yeah.
But when your boss comes and say, well, you know what? You got to come back to the office every day instead of working from home 5 days a week. So that change may not be welcome if it doesn't suit you.
And it's a very nice transition to, what we're going to be talking about today, right? Which is hustle culture. So we've split, this episode out into two segments. The first part, we're going to be talking about the difference between working hard, versus working smart. And then the second half of this episode, we're gonna be diving a little bit into peer pressure, right? And how, peer pressure has led to a pretty unhealthy hustle culture that, many of us youths face today. Now, just to give everyone a bit of context, right, behind what exactly hustle culture is, basically, it's, now I'm taking this off the Straits Times article last month by Yan Han, who interviewed me, and of course, she covered the article about Brahm Centre's new centre last month. Thank you very much for that. It's the mindset of putting work above everything else. The thing is, we see all the time, right? All those success stories from people we know. Tian Hao Tan, for example. Very famous YouTuber. Forbes 30 under 30. He works his butt off. Alright? Late suppers, lack of sleep, extremely late brainstorming and video editing sessions. He has his own channel. He's a content creator. He's got his own company as well. So, what's the problem with hustling then?
Well, Xuan, I think we all have to consider what's really important at each phase of life.
Okay.
If working is something enjoyable for the person and it's not going to be at the putting the health at stake, there's nothing wrong with that. Just as when you were a teenager, probably friends were a priority over parents. And that's just a phase of life that you guys go through, right? And until you get a bit older, maybe at some stage, parents become a higher priority than friends. So work can be a priority at certain stage of your life as long as it doesn't kill you.
But lack of sleep, late suppers, extremely late brainstorming, all this, it is detrimental to your health, if you do look at it long term, right?
So it depends on how you break your day down and when you give yourself breaks, when you allow yourself to enjoy a good meal and also to get enough rest. People who are in the F&B business or entertainment business, they have no choice but to eat late.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that their health is in a bad shape. So long that when they're eating, they're actually eating food that is healthy for their body.
Right.
But,
okay.
if you may give yourself sufficient sleep, but you drink a lot of alcohol, well, that's going to basically poison your
That's
body.
worse.
Yes.
But Angie, you're the CEO of an organization now, and you've previously taken up very high-flying corporate jobs. I'm sure this is something familiar with you, right? I mean, knowing you're someone who even works on weekends.
I love working weekends because then nobody's bothering me. I'm able to focus and I'm able to
no colleagues, no drama.
I'm able to focus. So that's really good. And it's a question of, am I giving up something to spend my time on work? So long what I'm giving up is not something that I regret or I feel that it's actually causing me to lose out on something else. So I actually enjoy my work and I don't do it for the glory. I don't do it for more money. Well, otherwise I wouldn't have joined a charity.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's really doing it because I find meaning in it. And I think whatever job that you're doing is to find meaning in it. That means you are actually making a difference to somebody else's life.
Yeah.
And that is what helps you to put meaning in your work.
But putting in so much, you even work on weekends, you're working on public holidays. Do you feel like sometimes, you're neglecting your family time, you're neglecting, time with your dogs, for example?
Oh, my dogs are not demanding. And that's the great thing about having pets. Unlike children who could be more demanding.
Oops.
In my case, my kids are grown up. They're overseas. They are doing their tertiary education. So it's not a case that they need me. In fact, I think they're happier that I don't buck them. A lot of parents, can't accept that when the kids are more grown up, they don't actually need us.
Right. Okay. And Angie, how long is a typical work day for you?
Not longer than most people. I would say I start at I start about 8 o'clock when I wake up, check some emails, and then I have my breakfast. And then I go into work. And I finish, say, about 6 o'clock and go back and have my dinner. And maybe I will do a little bit more work or I can watch a medical drama. So, it's not like there's pressure on me to keep working. But it's like, well, there's something I really like to do because an idea comes up, then I'll do it.
And, okay, for back then when you were fresh out of university, for example, and you were entering the workforce, what would you say was an expected amount of hours you were expected to do?
When I was out of university and I started my first job, what's wrong with putting in 12 hours? Because if I'm not doing 12 hours of work, then maybe I'm going out with friends, which I don't have to do every night. And if putting in the extra hours mean that I'm able to learn more and to be able to be more productive, I'm actually the one gaining. I'm gaining experience. And that's what it's all about when you're just starting off work because there's so little we know. Whatever we learn in university, it's only a small portion that is actually applicable.
Yeah, of course. But that was like 30 years ago, right? That was the mindset you had 30 years ago. For a youth today, honestly, if you ask any 20-year-old on the streets, you know what they'll say to you? How long a typical workday for them should be? Not more than 8 hours.
I know. I hear this from my own daughter.
Right? What do you think about that?
Well, it's up to her if that's how she perceives work should be, that it's only 8 hours. She will just have to be realistic that the amount of experience she gains will be that 8 hours worth. And if she has other things that she prefers to do, good for her. I'm not here to judge her, nor am I here to impose what I felt passionate about work onto her. So each one of us has to take our own path. And at the end of the day, it's a trade-off.
It is. Most youth today, we want that work-life balance, right? We were brought up with that, should I say, sense of entitlement, right? That we want it all. We want that. We want that experience from work. But we also want that family time. We want that me time. We want that time to go out with friends, to hang out and all that. But yet, all that, right? And we also expect to be successful. We want to be like Jian Hao. We want to be like any one of those influencers. Because we think that, their life is all glitz and glamour, right? They get to attend parties, they get invited to press conferences, free food, free whatever. But youths today are not willing to put in the hard work. Then how would you break it to these use that, well, sure, if you want your 8 hours only and you want your work life, whatever fluff, then you're never going to be the next Xian Hao or the next Xia Xue or the next Kylie Jenner for that matter, because we all know they work 18, 20 hours a day.
My question to the youth is, what's important to you? And what defines happiness for you?
Is it that work experience that you gain, or is it that party life that
Yeah. I mean, if somebody wants to do gig work and just wants to be able to earn enough money because then they can spend it on the things that they enjoy and they love, who am I to judge? But if they want certain things and this particular job is not going to get them what they want, then they need to reevaluate what is it that they need to rebalance.
Right. And it also brings up this other C word that that I've been thinking about, choice. We all have choices, don't we? So
Yes.
Once we are able to make the right choice, based on our experiences, based on what we feel is right at that point in time, then we're able to sort of discern what's best for us.
Yeah. So I say to women who would like to have children and a career,
Yeah.
and, how do you achieve sufficient time with your children, which is 1C, and excelling in your career? I think that's a trade-off. You can't have both. I remember when I had my first kid and my boss said to me, "Oh, does that mean you're going to quit your job and look after your
That's
kid?"
so outdated. I'm sure if any boss says that today, they're going to get cancelled. Other C word.
Well, he came from the US, and because they don't have the option to be hiring domestic workers and they don't have the option of their parents helping to look after the kids. So a lot of women end up taking a year off or 2 years off in order to take care of the baby until such time that the baby can actually go for childcare. So that's where he was coming from. But to me, the question was, wow, okay, I never thought of quitting my job.
Yeah.
But having said that, if I didn't have my mom and a domestic helper, I wouldn't have been able to focus on the work that I still
Of course.
have to do.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you can't have it all in life. Xuan,
Yeah.
what kind of peer pressure did you experience while you were going through school?
Okay, so back in secondary school, that was when I first experienced peer pressure in terms of academics, right? I noticed how, I was being allocated to sort of the best class back then, right? When I was in upper secondary. So the kind of pressure that I got from that class was that, everyone was competing. Everyone was always on the ball. Every day, when I reached class at 6:30 in the morning, I would see people studying already. And they'll be studying all the way until assembly starts, and then they'll be studying after school, studying in school. And I think it's very unhealthy because
So why did you follow suit?
it's sort of like that. If you don't keep up with the Joneses and you don't put in the effort, I'll feel like that I'm not accomplishing as much as I could have if I put in the effort.
Was it because you wanted excellent grades?
I did.
Why?
I think it was something brought up parents by teachers. They always ask you to, you should excel, you should do your best, you should, always be in your best form. And I think that all this conditioning that we were so used to when we were young, it sort of carried over into, the later stages of my life.
So is it really the education system, or there were people in your life that were...
I think it's the people, right?
Yeah,
Whether it's the
conditioning
teachers,
you.
the parents, the friends,
Yeah, because in every school or every level, there can only be one top class.
It is true.
And there are many students who don't end up with straight A's and they still do well in school eventually or in life. They still get into universities.
Yeah.
So sometimes I feel very sorry for students who get so caught up with this peer pressure and wanting to always do their best, be amongst the best. So I'm very glad that my parents never pushed me in that way. So I actually enjoyed school. I had fun while I was in school, and I never aspired to be in the top class because I just find them to be not
It's
as
super competitive. They're not enjoying life.
Yeah,
They're just striving constantly, right? And I think this also carried on towards, when I was in JC, hustle culture and, constantly working. It almost became like an addiction. I remember I would be studying with friends, in school from I'll reach school at 7 a.m. and I'll be studying all the way till 9 p.m. Sometimes even later. So it's like literally 15, around there, 15 hours in school. It was so unhealthy, but I kept doing it. It just felt like, you're already on that car. It just wants to keep moving.
So looking back, when you have now decided what kind of course you would like to take and you have actually secured a place in the university, did you have to work that hard to get into this course that you have applied for?
Actually, I'm not sure, I'm not sure because...
Yeah, but did you need straight A's to get into this program?
I didn't.
Exactly.
No, I didn't.
So, and you were aiming for straight A's and it put a toll on your health.
Yeah. And it was also because of, I guess, another thing, peer pressure, right?
Yes.
You see everyone studying around you. If you're not studying it, you sort of feel like, you're not putting enough effort into what you're doing as compared to other people.
Or was it that you were fearful of not meeting certain people's expectations?
Yeah, that's another possibility. That guilt.
Which became your own expectations of yourself.
Yeah, it did. Essentially, kiasuism. Right? I mean, it's so common.
So I went to an alumni party, and these were my friends who were in school with me. And some of them came up to me and says, I wish I was more like you, Angie, because you had a lot of fun while you were in school. And we studied so hard. We aced everything.
Yeah.
And at the expense of the fun that you had. And I said, I knew I didn't need straight A's to get into the course that I wanted. So why spend so much time studying when I could actually allocate some of the time to the activities that I enjoyed doing?
You know what's really interesting is that if you ask me now what I can remember from all those years in secondary school in JC, it's not the studying leh. It's the bits that I had fun with my friends, those events I went over the weekends, those school carnivals, those concerts that we attended as a clique in my class. Those were what I remember, not the 14 hours.
Yeah. So I look back very fondly at my school days and also having had time to do charitable work while I was in school, and not because I was forced into it or because I had to fulfill a certain number of CCA points. I did it because it was something that resonated with me. So when people are forced into doing CCAs or to make their CVs look good, but they don't actually enjoy it, I feel that
it's kind of sad.
Yeah. Right? Why don't they choose something that they actually find joy in it?
Of course. Going back to this hustle culture in schools and all that, I do think teachers also play a part, right? Because for me, I remember teachers, not all, but some, when I see them around in school, right? The first thing they would ask after, how are you? The first thing they will ask is, how's your revision going? Instead of something like, how was your holidays? How was your weekend? I mean, no offense to them, they're really great people and, I'm sure they don't mean harm, but I think the whole education system is also sort of contributing to this hustle culture.
So my question would be, are these teachers measuring their worth and their performance based on how well the students are doing? And therefore they feel the need to pressure them?
Okay.
So I hope that more teachers would help to put joy into the classrooms, making the lessons interesting and fun so that the students would actually want to study or to discover more about the subject, that gaining the knowledge and acquiring the skills related to the subject becomes something that they focus on, and the grade is a bonus.
Secondary, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just bring up this point? Do teachers actually get rewarded for better grades among their students? I'm sure many of our listeners want to know this.
I have no idea. That you have to check with the teachers. But at university where I teach, that is not on the equation.
But if let's say they are not, if it's not the case, then why are teachers still pushing their students so hard? Is it because similar to parents, they feel that they didn't achieve what they wanted to achieve back then when they were younger, and sort of they're putting this pressure on their students who they see, or their children, and they're sort of living vicariously through them.
Interesting. Could it be that there were universities that they aspired to go to and they didn't get in, but they take great pride in their students or the number of students they can so-called claim that have gone to such and such school and doing such and such program. So, or is there a KPI they have to meet in order to demonstrate that they're a really good teacher because so many of their students get the grades?
Yeah. Okay, it's a food for thought. But speaking about all this, right, we do have an upcoming episode on peer pressure. Angie, what can we expect from that? Give us a bit of teaser.
Well, peer pressure does push up performance. But if it's not done in a healthy way, then people can get demoralized. They can feel demotivated. So how we use peer pressure makes a difference to the journey.
Okay, there's a really good article online about hustle culture, going back to this topic. And I think they put it perfectly. Hustle culture carries this overarching belief that the more you do, the more valuable you are, right? And it's something even I'm very guilty of, right? Because my mindset would always be busier always equals better, right? And that constant busyness, it will always lead to more money, more prestige, more happiness, and higher self-esteem. Then how do we break out of this?
So this brings to mind why many people now are coming to Brahm Centre to learn mindfulness, learning how to pause, learning how to take mental breaks, and learning how to do self-care by having a mind that is not always cluttered with thoughts, because the mind that's cluttered with thoughts is the mind that's not able to sleep at night. And when we're not able to sleep, it compromises our health.
For sure, yeah. But how then do we explain the part about we are doing all this hustling, working so hard because you want your value to go up. You want people to see you in a better light. Does it stem from a lack of confidence in yourself?
This stems from how we've been conditioned. So in your case, when you feel the need to be scoring A's, who conditioned you?
My parents, my teachers, my peers, I guess.
Yeah. And if you had parents who said, hey, Xuan, enjoy school, don't get too hung up about grades, would that have changed your experience in school?
For sure.
So hustle culture has come from how the people have been conditioned. And it may come from the home, it may come from teachers or people who have influenced you.
Okay, and this is something we like to do at the end of every show. We wrap up our episode by poking fun at our episode topic. And today, since we're talking about hustle culture, let's try this again, Angie. What is a wind turbine side hustle?
What is a wind turbine side hustle?
OnlyFans. And there it is, our debut episode of the Chew On It podcast. Of course, Chew On It is a production by Brahm Centre Singapore. And don't forget to follow them on their socials at Brahm Centre Singapore on Facebook and at Brahm Centre SG on Instagram. Now, they are celebrating their 10th anniversary this year, and they're also the host of the Asia-Pacific Mindfulness Conference 2022. More details on the website at www.brahmcentre.com. Our next episode, it's going to be a very special one where we're going to get to know my co-host here, Angie Chu, right? She's going to be in the hot seat and I'm going to be grilling her, right? Asking her whatever you want to know. You don't want to miss out on that. Before we go, don't forget to subscribe to our show and share it with your family, your friends, your pets, whoever you think will benefit from this podcast. You can also connect with us on Instagram. My handle is at Xuan. And you can follow Angie at angiechu.brahmcentre. This has been Xuan, she's Angie, and we'll talk to you soon.